Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Alea Lalis, and this is an episode of the Enchanted Life Salon brought to you on Look Who's Talking Vision. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of something, and let's contemplate the enchantment that is our life. Good morning. It is morning where I am. I am here in Kailua Kona, Hawaii on an overcast day. Some people would call it fog. I think it's just clouds because it's been raining off and on for the last couple of weeks. I feel sorry for the tourists because they come to have beautiful sunshine and be in Hawaii. But for us, I kind of look at it and go, yeah, it'll go away soon. It's okay. I am joined this morning by Lynn, and she's in Oregon, cold Oregon.
Yeah.
And this morning I want to explore the way that we as baby boomers have redefined retirement, because I can remember my parents talking about retirement, and basically they were talking about the fact that they were going to get a check, there was going to be a Social Security check, and that my dad wasn't going to have to go to work every day anymore because he would get this check. And they were going to just do the stuff that they already did, like dad doing work around the house and, mom doing the garden. But that was what retirement was for them. It was money was going to come back to them that they had put out. But there wasn't any plans for doing something else. And when I listen to people who are older, they are not baby boomers. I don't know what the people before us were called, but the older people, they look at retirement, it seems, as they're going to get this money coming to them and they're going to stop working. But I've not heard them making plans to do anything else. And then there's this underlying thought that nobody voices, but that is there, that they hope the money that they have will be enough to last them and that they'll be able to be comfortable until they die. But there is the until they die, that's part of the definition of retirement. And it seems that baby boomers are redefining this. And baby boomers are looking at retirement as, I get to stop doing this, whatever their work is, and I get to go do this. And they have a whole agenda of whether it's traveling around the world, creating some volunteer organization, or, starting an entirely new career. But they're not looking at just sitting somewhere and vegging and waiting for the end. And so I thought that I would look up what retirement meant. And one of the definitions was to redraw. And that really makes sense to me, because when I look at the way that people our age are looking at retirement, they are redrawing or redefining what they're going to do with the rest of their life. So it's just a transition period. It's not the beginning of the end. Have you seen that, Lynn?
I have. There's people, when I mention we're going to retire out of the country, and their head spins around, their eyes roll back in their head, and they just can't grasp it. And I tell them, I don't want to sit around here with no money, with the health care that we have to pay, and insurance when you retire is astronomical. I don't want to sit around and wait to die and not do anything in the meantime. So we're going to change it. Our parents' generation would have never dreamed to leave the country. When I remember we all grew up through the Vietnam War, and we were young and idealistic, and the protesters were told, love it or leave it. It's your country. Love it or leave it. Well, it took us a long time to get here, but we're leaving. we're tired of how things are going, and we thought we could change the world back then, but this has gotten worse, where people are losing their retirement savings, and healthcare is going up and up and up and up, and we would like to have some quality. There's a woman I work with who is an accountant, and she says she's in her 50s, and she was shocked. She says, "You're retiring." She moved here from Taiwan, and she would rather trade time for money, but I would rather trade money for time.
Absolutely. And as I grew up, I remember seeing an elderly couple when I was in my 20s. I saw this beautiful motorhome pull up into a rest area. I was traveling between work from one job to another. And I saw this beautiful motorhome pull into a rest area, and I had watched motorhomes and trailers go by my house when I was a little kid, and it just seemed like the ideal freedom thing. And so I wanted to have one of those. And then I saw this beautiful motorhome pull into the rest area, and I waited to see who would get out. And nobody got out. And then eventually the door opened, and there was this elderly couple that must have been 500 years old, or at least to my 20-year-old self, that's what they look like. And they were trying to help each other out of this motorhome. And I looked at them, and I went, okay, I can't do that. And it's like, I can't do that. I am not going to wait until I'm that old to do anything. And so I quit my job, and I bought a van, and I started moving about the U.S. And so at this point, I've seen most of the U.S. I've lived all over the place and traveled, and I was always in these RV parks and stuff with old people, and they would all look at me and go, "What do you do, honey?"
What do you do?
Where do you get money? Where do you get money, sweetheart? And I was like, "Oh, I make jewelry. Oh, that's lovely. I'll buy that." And I'm thinking, "You're where I get money." You know?
And she follows the Grateful Dead.
I didn't like rock music, so I didn't, but that would have been a very lucrative place.
It would have been. You missed your opportunity.
Yeah, really. But so at this point, I'm not so much leaving the U.S. I'm leaving it because healthcare is overpriced and not very good, and it does cost too much to live in a quality of life that I would prefer to enjoy. But I do want more time. But it's more so that I've seen most of North America and a bit of South America. And so I want to see the other side. I've only traveled briefly in Southeast Asia and India, and I haven't seen Europe. And I want to see those places. And coming from the U.S., it's too expensive for me to make the U.S. a home base and travel to those places.
Mm-hmm.
But staying in some place like Thailand, the cost of living is much lower, so I could, I think, make that a home base and then be able to, travel to Sri Lanka or, I don't know. I really want to see the Da Vinci Code places. There's like all these things on my bucket list. And from here, it's really far. From Thailand, it's closer.
Well, speaking of bucket list, do you think our parents' generation had a bucket list?
Absolutely not. I'm sure they didn't. I just remember because my parents were older. I was adopted, so my parents were older. And I never heard them talk about anything except when we're gone. They always talked about them dying.
Well, it's terrible.
They weren't, it's not like they were depressed or anything. It was just, that was what they talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was not like, I mean, the furthest that they ever went, my mother was more traveled than my father because she came from the north. So she had been in Philadelphia and New York and all those places. My dad, I don't think he ever left our state.
There's a woman I work with that I don't think has left our county in Oregon that we live in. She, when we went to Japan, she said something about, well, do they have like stores and credit cards and electricity? It's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
God.
So yeah, there's like, okay, you need to crack open a book.
Well,
read, look at the Discovery Channel.
Part of that is our media, and particularly for our elderly, because they were taught that foreign people were alien. I mean, and we still refer to people who don't have a U.S. citizenship as aliens.
And it's a lot of generation, a little bit older than us were in wars, and so Southeast Asia are a bad place, and it's like, no, it's not like that.
Exactly.
The people that are really excited for us when we tell them we're moving are people who have come over here to live. I have friends from Fiji and the Philippines and Taiwan and China and Japan, and so they're for real. They're so excited. They're jumping up and down, and they're going, oh, good. When I go back over there, you can come see me, and I'll come see you, and it's so nice and refreshing to not have somebody look at me like I'm from another planet, I'm from Mars, and I'm an alien.
I really think that we are becoming more global, and the people that are not stepping into that global mindset, they will be just fine. But eventually I think there's going to be less and less and less and less of them, and more people that realize that in nature there is no demarcation of this is my country and this is your country, and that the time of the nation state is sort of gone. And so we are learning to live with other cultures, to be a part of other cultures, to study other cultures, and to embrace them, because it's part of the experience of being human and being on the planet.
I never understood the boundaries, the invisible line of you can't live here because you weren't born here. You can't come. I just never understood that.
I didn't have an understanding of that either, but I also don't have an understanding of you work until this point and then you stop. And then you have to do something else. And it's like,
right.
and basically that something else is volunteer work, or you have to take care of the grandkids.
Right.
Not that, you actually have a brain and you can create a new career, you can create a new life, you can, none of that. It's just, okay, you're old now, so there's nothing else to do.
Right. People say, well, what are you going to do? What do you mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to do a lot more than I'm doing right now. There's too many millions of...
Go ahead.
There's too many millions of choices out there, and meeting people and going places and doing things, and there's just infinite number of things to do.
Absolutely. I was outlining on the forum, which I want to remind people, my name is Alea Leyland, this is Glenn, and we're talking about baby boomers going global and changing the face of retirement. And we actually met on a site called Retire Cheap Asia. RCA is what we call ourselves for short, and it's a forum and a membership site. And if you look on YouTube, there are videos that JC, our fearless leader, has done that talk about the possibility of living in Asia, Thailand specifically. I was talking on the chat of the forum with someone, and I was, listing out the things that were on my bucket list of things that I wanted to do on this reconnaissance trip, as well as things that I was going to do once I was over there for good. And he's an older man. I think he's probably in his late 70s or early 80s, and he's typed in, "Now remember, you're retired." I thought,
what does that mean? And
I'm thinking, so does that mean that I just get to sit and look out the window?
I guess if that's what he wants to do, and he's happy.
Well, I suppose. He's been on the forum for quite some time. I've been on there a year. He's been on there for quite some time. He's still in research mode, and he tends to find a lot of the things that are bad. So, if there's any disaster that has happened in Thailand, he knows about it, and he posts it.
Well, I was going to save this quote for the end of the show, but I'm going to just say it now. It has to do with that. It says, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse.
Exactly.
So we need to step out of our excuse mode and out of our comfort zone and, just go have fun. I think that's what as humans, we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be serious and grouchy 24/7. We're supposed to laugh and smile and have fun.
and
darn it.
contribute something to the rest of humanity.
That's right. You're like our parents. You're going to have fun whether you like it or not.
Exactly. Let's put this at the top of your bucket list. Have fun now. And I was looking at the opportunities that there are to do things, and there were so many things. Because part of me was thinking, well, let's see. I was thinking of all of these solo things that I could do because, of course, I'm going by myself. You're going as part of a couple. Couples can entertain each other. But when you're going as a single person and you don't speak the language, then you are pretty much insular unless you really, push yourself out there. And so I thought, well, okay, and I'm not a push yourself out there kind of girl. One would never know by looking at me on YouTube, but really I'm sort of quiet. So I was thinking, what am I going to do in order to not be, become a little hermit sitting in my room looking outside? And I started looking at what's available. Oh, my gosh, I could be doing something like 24 hours a day. I could have just as little sleep there as I have here.
For less money.
and most of it was not, it's like they've got jazz clubs, they've got salsa clubs, they've got the expat group, they've got all these volunteer thingies popping up all over the place. Not to mention, it gives the time, which is what this guy was telling me to do. And remember, you're retired. I've got the time to do online work that I don't have time to do here. Mm-hmm. So far be it from sitting and staring out the window and thinking, gosh, what am I going to do today?
Well, I think people who are not adventurous, who are really comfortable in their small circle area of they go to the store here, they go over there, they go over here. That's where they live, that's their life. And they're happy and they're comfortable. But I don't know, I think National Geographic started it for me, and we talked about that last week, was just the pictures and that there's something else out there. Now that we have the internet and it's so easy to Skype and Facebook and Google Chat and all kinds of things, you can communicate with everybody whenever you want.
Exactly. When I think about moving to another country, rather than just like, oh, now I'm going to not be working anymore and I'm going to draw unemployment or Social Security, which actually isn't even in my consciousness. It's kind of interesting. Someone walked into the store yesterday, and she said, what is the social programs like in Hawaii? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know. And she said, well, that's really important. And I thought, okay, I suppose it is. And and then she and I started talking, and I realized that this woman had existed evidently a large portion of her life on social programs, whether it's food stamps or whatever. And so she was now in her 50s, and so she was looking for coming to Hawaii, but she wanted to know what the social support was. And I thought, oh my goodness, because every time I've even thought about not working, people say, well, how much is your Social Security going to be? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't even thought about tapping that because it's just not part of my brain. It's, yes, I will create something else to support myself, but I've not thought about money coming at me from some program. And I guess that's not the way the rest of the world really thinks, even the people in our retirement group.
Social Security was all there was, and still is for a lot of people. But then you go into stores and you see people in their 70s, bagging groceries and still having to work. And I'm sure they're collecting a small Social Security check, but where are they living? And it's so expensive here. Things just didn't turn out the way we thought when we were 17. And so I'm excited to be able to have a quality of life. And, so I'm not going to be retirement age when we move, but my husband is. So, but we're going to retire on the same day because we just want to be together, and we're going to trade our time for money. Money for time.
Money for time.
Yeah, that one. That one.
Well, the living longer, living leaner, I think is a valuable thing to do. First of all, because Hawaii, a lot of people retire here, at least people older than us have retired here, and they have all this stuff, and then they die, and their kids have to come and get rid of all this stuff. And there's tons of stuff. And I'm thinking, they have a whole house full of stuff. And first of all, the kids don't value it. They're looking at it and going, what the heck is this? Why did she say this, Chuck? And so it's like, well, if that's the case, then why have all that stuff? Why not have go ahead.
You there?
Yes, I'm here. I was saying, why not have a backpack and a suitcase and a few very treasured belongings, but not just a house full of stuff that you haven't seen in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, which if it disappeared the next day, you wouldn't even know it was gone because you hadn't seen it in so long.
Right. You can't take it with you. You can't. So if somebody wants to. They're sitting, grandma's dishes are up in the cupboard, and, we're saving them for a special occasion. Well, isn't that every day? Use them. Use it. Don't get it out of your closet and use it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if there's things on your bucket list, if you don't have a bucket list, get one. And
I have a big bucket.
Yeah, get a really big bucket because our lifespan also isn't the usual, 70 years or whatever it was. People are living longer and they're living a higher quality because they're not, spending their last days in a rest home, whatever that is. They're spending their last days, mountain climbing or whatever was on their list. And so if that is the case, then get the stuff out of the way. And that's where my decisions have become so different. When I go to the store now, I buy things. I'm looking at stuff and going, do I need this in a year? If I don't, no need to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something I'm going to use in a year? No. Okay. Do I have something that will do this right now? Yes. Okay, then I don't need to buy this.
That's right. That's right. I don't need this. And we're not taking our furniture. We're going to have a furnished apartment or a furnished condo that we're going to rent. And so what if it's somebody else's furniture? I don't care. I don't have to.
I've always had somebody else's furniture, so that one.
Maybe that's the same as me.
Yeah, well, I used to have a house. I had a house years ago, and when I sold the house, I sold it furnished. And the next place that I moved to had furniture, and I haven't had furniture since.
Great.
Okay, I really don't need furniture because it just means you have to rent a truck when you're ready to move.
It's very freeing.
Yeah. So now it's just a matter of, okay, I do not need 10 pairs of shoes. I actually need a pair of runners, a pair of flip-flops, and a dress pair. That's it.
Yeah. We're flexible. I think you have to be flexible and keep an open mind and just enjoy the new experiences. And, yeah, I guess I'm going to pull out my Thai phrase book and learn how to say, can you take me over there?
Yeah, so you'll be like I was in Mexico, where I spent a whole week learning how to say, please fill the car with gasoline. And then I got to the gas station, and I was all proud of myself and ready to say it. And the guy walks up to the door, and he goes, fill her up?
Yeah. So funny.
I do think that there is value in knowing the language, and so that is one of the things that is way up on my list, is to get into a language school for a couple of reasons. One, because it will help me with my visa requirements, because I'm not in the right age group to just right age group or right financial group to be able to walk in and have a visa that way. So education will be part of my ticket to that. But also, if I'm going to be in a place, I need to learn to speak the language so that I can have in-depth conversations.
I think that's going to be the hardest thing, because I love to have conversations with people, and it's going to be frustrating to get there at first, and even, studying the next 16 months or whatever is not going to give me enough where I can have a conversation with somebody. It's probably going to be third grade Thai. So, we'll just have to be patient with ourselves.
Well, be patient with ourselves, and I think that the more this is a judgment call on my part, but I think that possibly the more educated Thais and the ones that are in the metropolitan areas like Chiang Mai will have a pretty good grasp of it.
Well, I have read somewhere recently that it's hard to use Thai because they want to practice their English.
I had that problem, that every time I walked up and started talking to somebody and tried to say a Thai phrase, they pulled out their little notebook and started trying to say English to me.
Mm-hmm. And so both of you are trying to, like, just a polite please and thank you. And
Exactly. We are down to less than a minute. Thank you so much for joining me. And I think we're going to get Mike on, so I want to talk to you about that after we get off the air this time. Please friend us on Facebook. I am Alea Leyland, ALAIA-LEIGHLAND, and we also have a page on Facebook called Enchanted Life. So I will see you there. Thanks so much for joining us. And remember, it is your choice to have an enchanted life. Aloha from the Big Island of Hawaii, and then it's saying goodbye from
Oregon.
Oregon. Aloha.